All right. Welcome to the Catalyst Way, where we have conversations around unleashing the power of purpose and meaning to fuel transformative change in yourself and for others. And we're going to piggyback from what we did in episode 22. This is episode 23. And today we're going to go over the questions around pillar number two, which is serve profoundly. And the question around that is, what am I here to do? So there are three specific questions we're going to address, or at least one of them. But the three questions for knowing yourself, serving profoundly, are as follows. The unfulfilled mission. What is the single most important risk, creative, professional, or relational, that you regret not taking because it would have allowed you to serve your purpose or express your gifts more fully? So that's the first one. The second one, the legacy moment. If you could select only one of your past actions to be your definitive moment when you had a profound impact on another person, group, or community, what was it, and how does it specifically inform the way you should be living today? And then the last one, beyond the effort. Are you currently measuring your life's success by the effort you expend or by the profound transformative outcome you generate for others? If you measure your life success by the effort you expend, what action can you stop doing immediately to shift that focus? So those are the three questions. Now, I will say I'll put it out there. I think for both of us, the third question is easy. It doesn't really need a conversation because we both measure our success by the profound transformative outcome we generate for others. It
I
is
can agree
not,
with that.
yeah, it's not about the effort we expend or the money we make. That's not even material.
Agreed.
So I don't even think the third one we even need to address because we don't need to shift that focus because we're already in that mode. So I'm going to make it harder because we only have it, well, or easier because we only have to choose one of the two. So
No, it's
of
not
the,
easier.
what was that?
It's not easier.
Yeah. So we've got the unfulfilled mission and the legacy moment. Which one do you want to tackle for yourself?
All right. Can I have the questions one more time?
Yes. What is the single most important risk, creative, professional, or relational, that you regret not taking because it would have allowed you to serve your purpose or express your gifts more fully? Or the legacy moment, if you could select only one of your past actions to be your definitive moment when you had a profound impact on another person, group, or community, what was it, and how does it specifically inform the way you are living today?
I would go with question number two,
Okay.
but I don't know that I can narrow it down to one single event.
Okay. So you could choose a couple events. It's kind of,
I For me it's from a coaching perspective where when coaching a team, we had an opportunity to do a classroom session because we couldn't practice outside. Field conditions were too wet, had some lightning also, so we had the ability to go inside, do a classroom session. We did that, and during that classroom session, we had an activity that we went through, which was a My Life, My Story poster, which in essence is you just highlighting series of events, highs and lows, good or bad, that had to do with your life and how they impacted you. I was able to share with a group of our players some of my highs and some of my lows, such as my parents getting divorced, uh, me going through a divorce myself, going through working a part-time job and being electrocuted, and the trauma that came off the backside of that. So we went through all of these activities, and then I allowed them to do their own posters. What came out of that next, I never could have imagined. There were players who ended up sharing things that their teammates had no knowledge of, some who had contemplated suicide, some who had watched their parents be abused and them taking their families and escaping that whole scenario, that situation, and them now being in a place where they were receiving counseling, of course, to get through all of that, but them just being willing to share that journey with their teammates, the impact that that had, I didn't even know it was going to do that. So being able to watch that transpire, if there's anything that I've ever wanted to do again, and I've been able to do multiple times since, is just allowing individuals, even in that space and young phase in their life, to share their story, because we all have one. And being able to do that for me was a game changer, because I'd never experienced that before as a coach.
All right. So that's one. Well,
I'm going to stay there for now.
okay. Because, one of the things I was going to say is, you know, you showed up for the first time I did a workshop. Like, so think about someone had said, you might want to come to this workshop. This is even
Mm-hmm.
before you started your club.
Yes.
And to think, that was 2000, what, 15
Yeah, I
that
think
you came
so.
to the first one. And, now it's 10 years later and we're at this point. And it was just a suggestion. You might like this workshop.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that it would. I mean, did you ever think that coming to this workshop would lead us to writing a book and doing the podcast, doing all this other stuff when you
Well,
first did that first one?
I've shared before, right? We've talked about this before, that I came in really trying to figure out what I could do, because I was personal training, and it was me trying to see what I could do to use the work in a way to better help my personal training clients, and also the players that I was coaching at the time. Because even though I hadn't started the club yet, I was still coaching. So I came really for the sole purpose of, what can I get to help those that I'm in front of, to help those that I'm coaching, to help those that I'm training. What came on the backside was how much it impacted me and affected me, and me looking at how much of my story I hadn't walked through or been willing to unpack, just pushed it away like we all do, and it's life, let's move on to what's next, without understanding how much of all of that was affecting what was going on a daily basis. But here I was, and I just want stuff to take it back to who I'm helping, when what really took place was, I needed to be trained in order to be a better trainer. I needed to be coached in order to be a better coach. What kept me coming back was what was happening with me and what it was doing to me. That effect was what kept me saying, yeah, what's next?
Great story. So, and I was trying to decide, do I answer the first one? I don't know if I can really say I've regretted or it's something I didn't do because you know me, I'm always trying stuff. Um, so I would say, the legacy moment for me was um I was kind of so when I was at the College of New Jersey, and I mentioned in one of the previous podcasts that I had this issue with one of my boss, my dean, and I went to William and Mary, and then I went to the College of New Jersey. So I was in three different jobs, 3 different years. But when I got to UNCG in the interview, one of the things I talked about is I, they were looking for someone, a student success coordinator. And I said, I am not going to be another advisor helping people with their schedules. If you're going to bring me in, this is the work that I want to do. And just like you, I just didn't want to develop, course schedules and all that. I'm like, I want to help people get a plan for their life. And then they create their academic plan around the plan for their life. And I want to teach a course where they could do this as a course. And I had no idea where this was going to go. So when they hired me, I had them do my search committee do the value tags. So they actually went through the values. And they're like, all right, this is the kind of stuff we think would be really good. So to make a long story short, they hired me. I tested it out in small groups my first year, but in the second year, I got approval to do it as an experimental course, 2 sections, 40, 20 students in each one, and students raved about it. Um, and the feedback was so positive. The next semester, the spring semester, they said, we want you to do a couple more. And in the following fall, I did 3 more. So I went from 2 to 3, and then 3 to like 6, and then 6 to 10. Because they're like, you've got something going on here that other people don't have. And it really was, like you said, you got to know you before you plan how you serve.
Mhm.
And I think education was so focused on get a job, get a degree to get a job, but we didn't do anything about does that job like connect with something that matters to you versus get a job so you can make a lot of money. So, I spent so in the class we created, the first half of the semester, it's a semester long course. The first half was knowing yourself. The second half was serve profoundly slash finding your right pond. So the first part is, you know, basically a character resume. What are your personality traits, your values, your strengths? Um, and take all that to create this document saying this is who I'm at, who I am. And then the second half was how do I serve, like a meaningful work statement, and can I pick a major based on how I want to serve? So naturally, we had, a good portion of our students leave their present major because they're like, I never thought about how I want to serve, using my gifts and my talents and my skills in serving someone. It was always about get a job and make money. Um, so, even though we lost, you know, 12 to 15% of our students, the ones who stayed were very clear about why they were staying. Um, and that led to increases in retention, graduation rates, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so I would say that process so that process led me to creating the 3 day workshops. So I'm like, if it's working in the classroom, I wonder if I could train other people to do it. So in 2014, I did my first life design catalyst training, and 40 people showed up from all over the country saying, we want to learn how you do this with students. And now we've done, gosh, 20, I think we're on number 23 or 24. Next week, we'll
Mhm.
do our 23rd, 24th Life Design Catalyst training. And again, bringing people all over. The thing that's interesting is it used to be just focus on higher ed. How can you help? students find purpose and meaning. Now it has moved to people who want to implement this work in their coaching practice or in their nonprofit or in some other avenues where how can we help our clients? How can we help the people we serve find more purpose and meaning, not in education? So that it's interesting how it's kind of morphed from this educational thing to now more of this life thing in all areas, like you with churches.
Right? I think the spectrum has just opened up all the way, right? It's even when you mention students, and you're talking about college students who are not staying in their majors because now they know, well, this isn't how I want to serve. This is clearly not what I want to do. Even going back a step further and us being able to get this to high school students so that walking in the door, there's not even this discussion about you bailing out on your major because now you know what it is exactly that you would like to do. You know what you're chasing. You know how you'd like to serve. You do believe that this is an area where you can cause a greater impact because we've already had this conversation with you about knowing yourself, right? Even if I didn't know exactly how to put it, that's sort of what these players were being asked to do when they were going through this activity. That and it what it opened up and the way it helped the entire team, because now these guys know stuff about each other that they never knew before. And the way they play together now transformed because of that one activity. So yeah, I can absolutely appreciate what you're saying with now we have individuals who are coming to workshops from all walks of life, not only from the position of who they'd like to help with it, but also because of where they want to go next in their life. You know, we've got people who are retired. Well, what's the next phase for them? You know, we've got people who are transitioning. A job is downsizing, moving away. Well, now what's next for them? And them coming to this to really unpack who they are so that they can better determine exactly what it is they'd like to do. How do we serve profoundly? Because there's a big difference between serving and serving profoundly. And I don't think you can get to the profoundly part without truly understanding the know yourself.
Mhm. So I'm excited to see what happens next week in the next workshop. Um, I'm going to ask you a question on the third one because I think
All right.
something popped into my head about the third question, which is measuring your life success by the effort you expend or the transformative outcome you generate. Has there ever been a time where you measured your success by effort and money in the past? Or have you always been about transformative experience?
Uh, I think there was definitely a time where it was, I'm going for the money. I need more. There's stuff that I need to do. There are things that I want to take care of. So I don't think it was going after the money from a place of wealth. You know, I want to be rich more so than I need more because I need a better level of comfort. So that level of comfort isn't there. So that's why I'm going after more. So I definitely think there was a phase in my life where that became the walk. I don't know that that's uncommon for too many men because we're very black and white in that way. But I do think as time went on, it turned into the inner work and seeing the importance of that again because of what was taking place with the growth spiritually as well and with who I was around and what I was doing. I just think that there's something that takes place inside of you when your work involves training others and coaching others. You know, whether you say it out loud or in private, you're in that place where you're asking yourself, am I doing what I'm asking you to do? And how well am I doing what I'm asking you to do? Am I just saying it versus actually trying to live it or walk it out? And yeah, that became a reality for me. And I think not just on the physical side, but also inwardly, the spiritual side, that it just wasn't good enough to be, well, if you're going to be a trainer, well, you need to be in shape. I think there's a little more to it than that,
Right.
and focusing on that part of it and understanding why this matters, because otherwise you're saying one thing and living another, and it's kind of like, who wants to listen to a doctor who smokes, right?
Right. And and it's funny. So I was thinking back over time, and as I'm putting our workbook together for next week, one of the activities is the narrative blueprint. So it's a storytelling how you get to where you are today. And it made me think back to I was very driven by money, like making enough so that I could support my family. And if I did good work, I was that was fine. So, but I was driven by money and evaluation. So, like I taught when I was teaching, I wanted to get the highest evaluations. If I was advising, I wanted to, have the best numbers of people who were graduating. It was always based on these external measures. And I remember distinctly in 2004, I mean, it literally like it happened yesterday. I went to this conference, Golden Key International Honor Society, went to the conference, and they were naming who won the International Advisor of the Year award. And there's like 200 countries or 200 schools that are represented. And they called my name. And I'm like, what the heck? Why are they calling me? And what they did is when I got up there, they read the story that the student wrote for the nomination. And
Wow.
it was literally the first time someone said, this man was like a father to me. And that was a shifting for me because I was always driven about me. And then a student said, you have served me like my father.
Hmm?
And my whole frame shifted after that. Because it's like, it's not about me. It literally is about how am I serving these students the best way I can. But it started with me. So, and like literally right after that, I had got that. I got my dream coach certification. I got called out there about, is this really about you or is it about like what you do? So, and I got called out in my coaching certification. So, all these things led me to here. And it's like, wow, by having these conversations, you're connecting the dots, really.
Yep.
You're having an opportunity to connect the dots. And that has been so profound through the trainings because I get to reflect on myself when I do when I do the workbook. I'm going through it and I'm getting to reflect on myself and then hearing the conversations that people are having when they go through it themselves. And it's like, talk about profound. I'm like, I can't imagine doing anything else other than this work and serving others. Like, there's nothing else I want to do. So, and I bet we could say we eat, drink, and live this work. I
Pretty
think,
much.
yeah, I was gonna
Yes.
say it's, yeah.
Hmm.
So, do you have any closing thoughts you want to share before we finish this episode?
No, just that I'm looking forward to the workshop, and we'll have fun talking about what transpired in that one.
Right. So, well, thank you all for joining us for this episode. Remember, this is Serve Profoundly. Hopefully, you'll join us when we do the last one, which is Find Your Right Pond, because I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Yes.
So thank you all for joining us and
All
have a
right.
great rest of your day.
Bye for now.
Bye.